All right, I think we're online. Hey guys, welcome to the AI-powered business talk or business live with me, Michael Olschimke. I'm the host today. Essentially, I'm hosting a special guest today. That's Hernan, the head of research at Scalefree. So yeah, thanks for joining today. And as usual, I would talk a bit about my topics this week that essentially kept me busy, let's say, and which was quite a different week to be honest. And I typically in our today's session, what I have is essentially a mind map. On the left side, you see some data topics. On the right side, you typically see some AI topics. But today it's different. I use the same format here for a different perspective. My week was different, so I essentially was rushing out an article for a platform where I saw an opportunity to discuss essentially a topic that's important to me. So there's a new article coming up. I've wrote like 3,000 words in 2 days, essentially. It's a new record, I believe. So yeah, so that was part of my week, and then the rest was customer calls, client calls, and the like, essentially. So that's the idea. So like little bit of meetings, and I had Wednesday off because my yeah, we went for breakfast essentially with the family, so it was also nice. So yeah, different week. And yeah, today is really about empowerment. And yeah, let me just share the story how essentially I started with Dan together, and how we founded essentially Scalefree. Um, Dan and me, we wrote together the book Building a Scalable Data Warehouse with Data to Know. And the yeah, so in the end, I like the idea. So he essentially helped me to better understand data vault. That's what one thing. For me, it's just like in my masterpiece essentially. If you go for training and then you have the final outcome, you have to build something. That was the book essentially, right? And I wanted to essentially help Dan back then to get the topic into the industry. That's the book here. If you don't know it, I believe most people here, at least in this circle here, know it. That's the Building a Scalable Data Warehouse with Data What We Know. And I essentially tried to help Dan to get the topic into the industry. That was my goal with the book. And I want to learn from him how data vault works. That's the intention essentially what we have doing, what we're doing. And and I knew how to write a book because I took a class at the University of Oklahoma, where I took essentially a class on business communication, technical communication, and so I knew how to get a complicated technical topic on a book essentially. And I hope that my everything fine here, okay? And so that's the basic idea essentially. And essentially I organized the book, we wrote together, and then that's the outcome. A lot of questions we received about the topic, about the cover. What's up with the burning car here? And the idea is that when you know the old book by Dan, Supercharge Your Data Warehouse, there's a a gauge on the cover with ice and fire on one or the other side. And he told me that when I asked him, hey Dan, because I had so much influence on the book regarding the reorganization, the didactic writing, and so on, you should have the cover. It's still your book. And he said, okay, let's have a cover which is really nice and has something with fire and ice. And I was like, what's up with fire and ice? And he said, yeah, if you look at all the other books in the space, all the other BI books, they're boring. All the covers are, I mean, not the books are boring, but the covers are boring, right? And we need something that stands out, that's fire and ice. And I said, okay, I went to the publisher and said, hey, well, Dan wants fire and ice, let's find something. But it should also represent agility, for example, speed, and so on. So that's what we came up with the car with the burning tires, essentially. It contains at least fire, not the ice, but there wasn't a requirement. Fire or ice was the requirement, essentially. So that's the idea of the book's cover, essentially. We received some interesting other book covers, but they never made it, right? So I'll only show you the one that made it on the book. So that's how we started, and then we founded Scalefree together. Because I mean, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, we saw the demand. We wanted to focus on data vault, on the trainings and on consulting services, and there was demand from the industry also to get more services regarding data vault. The idea was born because I said, I mean, I told him, hey, wouldn't it be nice if I like to write, I like to teach, same for them. So, but then I said, okay, wouldn't it be nice if a consulting firm would hire us so we can do the writing and then for that they get in return they get a logo on the book cover or the back cover essentially. That would be nice, I said. But we also knew, well, no, nobody would hire us for writing books or something. So, and then I said, okay, why don't we just found our own company, and then step by step give the shares back to the employees essentially, right? So we just have a job there eventually and writing books. That's the idea, and that's how Scalefree was formed. So we said, okay, let's start it. Let's start with the company and then really formed it into a partnership essentially, and that's the underlying reason for or the initial idea, let's say, for founding Scalefree. And then came everything else, having the trainings organized, having the consulting engagement and so on, and and it's founded in Germany because it was essentially my idea to found this company, and he said, okay, it was your idea, you have to do it essentially. So it was essentially in Hanover, where I'm originating from, in close by. So that's the reason why we are located in Hanover essentially, and so that's just a bit of story. But with that in mind, with all the book writing and what our initial goal was, and then also had this empowerment team in his marketing. So it was his company was called Empowered Holdings, where he essentially, I'm not sure what he's doing today with that in regard, but Empowered Holdings was a company where he was running the trainings back then. And so empowerment was important for him as well, and that's why we said, okay, we in this organization, if we just want to be consultant writing books and everything else is organized by somebody else, we have to have an environment where people can strive and organize themselves, right? So I can only set the environment, but I can't let's say tell them all the time what to do because I want to write books, right? I just want to be a consultant. So if that's the idea, we said, okay, we really have to focus from the beginning on this environment to make sure people develop themselves and then really get everything organized so we don't have to do it. That's the basic idea essentially. That's the background story. And so this is Scalefree environment. I talk about that on this internal perspective on the right side here. So let me first focus on the client empowerment, because that's the first thing essentially. So Scalefree's mission, if you want, is really to spread the idea about Data Vault and help clients in the industry to better understand Data Vault and take it to their advantage. That's the mission of Scalefree essentially, right? I mean, we do also other topics, but that's at least how we get started. But you can transfer this to other concepts as well, right? In CRM and so on. We do CRM work, we do DevOps work, but it's really about that. Understand the concepts, taking for advantage essentially. And we do all the means by achieving that. So we publish books, we publish articles on blogs, we publish webinars, and I'm down here now. We publish webinars. We have a lot of webinars, and it's not me running those. I mean, I do run some as well, but it's mostly done by the employees. I'm not writing all the books. It's also done by the employees. I'm not writing all the blog articles. I'm writing a few, but not all of them, right? So it's done by the environment, by the Scalefree company, essentially, by all the employees there. We publish success stories. We have the trainings. There's more and more trainings. We organize conferences. We have the Data Vault Friday, where I'm personally, most of the times, answering questions about Data Vault. It's a live stream where you can just join. It's not a live stream like this one here. You can ask Data Vault questions here as well. So I'm actually watching LinkedIn here at least, and I'm also watching YouTube where you can watch this live stream here, and where you can also ask questions. So if you have any Data Vault questions, I would ask them after today's interview with Hernan. I would answer them essentially, not before that, but you can shoot your questions, and if they're more Data Vault related, I will put them after the interview essentially, because I'm first focused on the interview. But so we have this Data Vault Friday, and we have these live streams, and maybe more content, which I haven't essentially recognized when I had a bit of a rush to create this slide deck here, or this mind map here yesterday. So lots of content we produce, but also the consultants in the team, when they are engaged with the client, they also use that opportunity to teach the client, help the client to better understand Data Vault and apply it in their projects. That's what we do all the time, right? So that's our essentially our mission. That's what we do with all these means essentially. All right, so that's the client perspective, if you want. We are very successful with this. We're growing year by year by 20, 30, 40%. We do a cap actually we try to not grow beyond 30% a year, because then we experience, or we expect, quality issues, right? So if you grow too fast, so we try to 20-30% is great for us. That's what we're trying to achieve essentially year by year. So that's the idea, and it works for us. So it works for our clients, it works for us, and that's the cool thing essentially about the company. What I love about it. The internal perspective is also important, and let me start with myself here, even though I don't like to start with myself. My leadership style. And if people from Scalefree watching this, they were like, "Oh, Michael is leading something," because seriously, I started a company because I wanted to be a consultant, right? I don't want to be the CEO and running the company or something, and I don't see myself in this role forever. My leadership style is actually to, again, focus on the environment, make sure the environment works, is set up in the right way, that the trajectory of the company is in the right direction. And as long as that's the case, why should I micromanage it? I rather stay out of the decision-making process as long as the decision-making process are in the right trajectory. So at the very beginning of the company, I focus on setting up the environment, and that it goes into the right direction. But once that was achieved, I step by step delegate all the work to somebody else. And by delegation, I don't like the term actually, because delegation sounds like I'm giving it to an employee and they will report back to me with all the results and all the success they had. Fine. Yeah, we can talk about that, especially in the beginning. But I rather have them make the decision what to focus on for the success of the company. And then yeah, we talk about the success. Yeah, fine. And I would step in if something goes utterly wrong. The thing is this, that also requires, well, first of all, there's two things here. In one of my classes in the business school, we looked at typical employee roles or something. So what type of employee are you or something? I'm not sure what if it was employee roles or something. And I forgot all the other ones, but I identified immediately my own one. And that was the consulting employee or something, where I help somebody to achieve their goals. That's my personal style of working. I help somebody to achieve their goals. That's my style essentially. I don't have to be the guy on the top or something and capture all the success. So that fits actually with the consulting business in my opinion. I help the client to succeed or the employees to succeed, but yeah, then they also have the success essentially. So the thing is this: if you set up an environment like this, you have to trust the people, and trusting people means also that you have to accept failures and errors they made, right? Because it's what it is. So they experience this for the very first time sometimes, to make their own decisions and look at the results and learn from the results and improve. That's the trajectory, right? So to make sure they actually improve over time. So the first thing we did is essentially we established a retrospective meeting every once in a month. We discussed everything that went wrong, to be honest, and how to improve that, typical software development stuff, right? Scrum. And so that helped the organization to become better over time. And yeah, but mistakes will be made, mistakes will happen, and it's part of the learning process if you want, or part of the process. So let me just double check here on LinkedIn. Did I not miss something? Okay, so that's part of it, and you have to accept that. That's what it is. But if you want to avoid any mistakes, I mean, first of all, you make mistakes as well, right? So that's the other thing. But then you have to start micromanaging people. And then you're really the manager who manages everything. If you die, the whole company will die. If I die tomorrow, well, it would be hopefully a bad day for everybody. But other than that, not for Scalefree, to be honest. Scalefree will survive. That's for sure. That's what I know for sure. So it's not on me that the company will survive tomorrow or something. So, that's the thing. And then I would say my personal style is I like to try things. So I would call myself more on the left side here, creative chaos, while Christoph, for example, is more on the rational side. So, and that's also a good leadership team, where one person is more creative, the other person is more looking at the numbers, and that something comes around with this. And you have to find a compromise, right? So be creative on one side, and then also limit your creativity and the chaos that comes with it on the other side, essentially. That's also important, I think. So that's also cool. That's a cool setup. But also the same applies for the organization, for the environment as well. So it should be creative. It should be, you want to try out something, and you have to accept you fail sometimes. And but on the other hand, you want to make sure it's not completely chaos and there's no let's say, no gain or no reward. There should be something coming. I mean, there should be something coming out of it. What you're doing, and yeah, that's. I would say the most important thing is we don't work for free, right? So there must be something in return. It doesn't have to be money, right? But there must be something in return when you do something for a client, for a partner, or something. What's in us for us essentially, right? What's the return? And then with that in mind, if there must be a return, then you typically filter out all the stuff where you waste a lot of time, right? So focus on essentially what provides value for both sides, and then we can work on that. So I think that's also a good guideline, let's say, when to get this organized. And with this in mind, with this environment in mind, we also want to make sure that our employees are empowered, not our clients, because in the end, it's not just me empowering our clients, it's the company, right? So we have to have an environment where, first of all, the employees learn what they need to know so they can get out to the clients and make an impression to the client. And and they have to learn, right? They have to learn something. And again, it's a creative environment. So we do have a lot of side projects, let's say. Sometimes too many. So that's when Christoph jumps in and say, well, we have to reduce them a bit again because it's getting out of control here again. So it's good. So it's always going up and down a bit. We have this pressure from being more creative. And then when it gets too creative, too much chaos, we reduce it again and filter the good ones out and kill the bad ones, essentially, the bad projects, essentially. So that's cool. And so the organization by itself, at least that's my design. I hope that's the true environment. Is that the employee should be empowered first. They need to learn what they need to know, and they should be creative and having their side projects to learn and to also provide value to our clients. And that's how we had projects like, for example, the Date Vote for DBT package came out this way. We saw this demand. We had some consultants who wanted to work on this, and then we said, okay, let's go for it. Let's develop these patterns inside DBT, but also for Coalesce. We have templates for Wascape and so on, right? So we have all these templates for different tools. And I hope I didn't forget anything. And they came up with this or other content. There's a book that I want to talk with Hernan about that also came out of this context to some extent. We'll talk about this in a second. And then and also the research team, because the research team was really a way of better getting organized, to organize this chaos, to get this more into the right trajectory again, into the right direction, so that we have less failures, more creative successes, let's say that. And that's what I want to discuss essentially with Hernan here on the talk. Let me just get Hernan here in the 1 second. I have to add you actually as a mouse. This is always confusing to me. So here's hopefully Hernan. Double click. Video source, guest one. So there's Hernan. Hey Hernan.
Hey Mike, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining today. Hernan is the head of research at Scalefree. He's essentially responsible for the research team. It's not the only one creative location, I would say. There's also other teams that work on creative tasks, like the internal enterprise database team, for example. They also have their tasks, how they develop the internal system, for example. It's not boring. It's really what we do at Scalefree. We love the work and we want to improve on that one. So that's also an interesting and important piece. But Hernan, you're heading the head of research. Before we get started, what you're actually doing there, because when I started out early on in my career, I was essentially looking at other people's. I looked at my role models, let's say, and I looked at how they got there. So I looked at the CVs, their public CVs, and so on. So I always ask my interview partners here, what are you doing? How do you get there? And how did you end up at Scalefree in your position right now? That's maybe
Sure.
It's not on your CV, essentially.
So I would guess my CV, it could be quite eclectic if someone sees it, because I'm originally from Argentina. So before coming to Germany around 3 years ago, I was already working in Argentina for like the last 6 years in a university, and it was a really nice experience because it was a national university. In Argentina, we have around 50 national universities, and this university was being built from the ground up. So I just came there when it was only 2 years old, and you can imagine that this opportunity doesn't pop up all the time, right? It's like we have university that has 50, 100 years, 200 years. So it was also kind of a beautiful chaos at the beginning. It was also like being on a startup. Everything was moving really fast, and I ended up there at the very beginning because of some research partnership with my home city, with my home university. I was a fresh, I already finished my studies in economics, my undergraduate studies, and I went there just for like some kind of research partnership. The thing is that I ended up having a really good relationship with the university rector, which also was an economist. Also, I was studying German at the moment, like the language, and he also had a really prolific relationship with Germany, going to like teach some from time to time there in German, which is not common at all in German in Argentina, to be honest. And yeah, like quite research focused, this person. He has a PhD, but also he come from the private sector as a
Mhm.
consultant. So it was a really nice mix, and yeah, like the relationship was really good. He started to trust me more and more. And at the beginning, I went to this city. I didn't knew anyone, and I was saying yes to all the opportunities because that's why I was there, right? So it was, Hernan, we have this new course opening next semester, is related to economics. You're an economist, maybe you will be interested. Yes, of course. And it was like after like 2 3 years there, I was doing maybe way too much. So I was researching, I was teaching in different number of classes in courses, most of the time by myself in front of a whole course. I was
Yeah.
25 26 years old. That was a real challenge at the very beginning, but I realized that I really like it, to teach. And also it's also a way to, if you really like to teach, you also like to elevate or to empower your students, right? So it's also a way to manage these skills and to yeah, help them to become better at what they are doing. And then I was also, little by little, the rector asked me to create the research and technology transfer area at the university because we didn't have any. So I started by myself, just like writing out down the regulations. Of course, I had help from other universities, other benchmarks. But long story short, I ended up directing this area. So
Mhm.
we created a technology transfer center with around 10 to 10 laboratories of different specialties. We had a lot of researchers, so it was a really nice chaos again. So yeah, I ended up being the manager of this area. Um, at some point of the story, I just realized that I already create everything, and I was hitting this ceiling, let's say. So I realized that I wanted some change, and I was researching on myself, all the data world. I was really interested into the data stuff, and I started doing this master degree at Imperial College London, so in university in the UK. It was COVID era, so it was everything online, and also it was part time because I was working on the side. And this is also how I jump into business analytics. So I
Mhm.
make this change into my career path. I was really interested into AI, machine learning, all these
Yeah.
applications. And I was also doing some consulting on my side in Argentina and some companies more related to BI, like business intelligence. And long story short, again, I just realized, okay, I want some change. I want new challenges. Like I already built this area, it can like also run by itself. They don't need me anymore, so I want now like novelty. So I say, okay, let's go to the old continent, to Europe. I decided Germany because yeah, I wanted to keep improving my German skills, but yeah, that's still something that's ongoing. And yeah, I end up finding Scalefree. I remember having the first interview with you and with
Mhm.
Christoph, and one of the things that made me decide, okay, this is the place. It was that you wrote a book, you were based
Mm.
on this methodology that I didn't understand very well at the moment, like this datable stuff. I was Googling,
Yeah,
but I didn't understand very well. And you were also like working along with students and with the university.
yeah,
And for me, that was like a really good bridge. Um, Also, the moment of the company, it felt like similar to how I found the university back then, right? When it's
mm.
like a moment that you already have figured out what you are doing, but you still have a lot of place to grow. So
Yeah,
this is how I end up like, yeah, choosing
yeah, cool.
Scalefree and like enjoying what I'm doing, like, and challenging myself again into becoming a consultant in this area.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, and remember that essentially the first thing we did is we put you in project, so you have a chance to learn it. Essentially, the data topic. I mean, typically every employee, first of all, and I believe you as well, also goes on the internal project first, right? So I'm not 100% sure if that's the
Yes.
case for you as well, but that's what we do. So they start working on the internal enterprise data warehouse, and the internal enterprise data warehouse really serves multiple purposes. I mean, we need it from a management perspective. We started working on it when we didn't know in the early days how much cash do we have left, essentially. And you can look at your bank accounts, but then you also have the short-term liabilities and short-term what it's called when you get money essentially from your invoices. And the so we didn't know how much short-term cash we have, and that's why we started working on essentially on our own internal enterprise data was. But it's also a learning environment. So when we hire new
Mhm.
people, most people don't know data vault, or they have a different impression of what data vault is. So we have to get them on the same page essentially, and then
Mhm.
we have we also use it for demonstration purposes, so we can show off how a data vault looks like, the way we build it, and so on. And then we essentially we had this plan in mind already that we wanted to do more structured research, let's say, and that's where you come in place. But before we go talk about the head of research role, the research team, you also had a small publication. It's not it doesn't have an ISBN, I believe, but it's a publication that we distribute essentially.
Mhm.
So Scalefree also became a book publisher now. We're not. It's it's just a piece of writing that we want to give to our clients, but also to employees, to to learn more about data vault. So let's talk about the handbook, the data vault handbook first. How that came around essentially.
So basically, it wasn't me who had the idea, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
was already used to write stuff for Scalefree, maybe usually like shorter publication. It could be a blog post or also like hosting different kind of webinars. So they knew that because I had this background of
Yep.
mostly on research, I'm used to write, right? And
Yep.
I really enjoy it. So this is also a way I like to learn stuff, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that phew, an old teacher told me back then is like you cannot explain something well if you don't understand it very well, right? So you really need to learn something to be able to explain to it in a clear way. So this is how I put myself into situations to keep learning new stuff. And as they have me as a person who can write and who enjoys the
Yep.
process, Christoph came to me to tell me that they are thinking about creating this piece of content, maybe a bit deeper than a blog post,
Mm-hmm.
to give a first insight to newcomers into data vault, right? Because for sure, from zero to the what I call the book that you wrote, the building a scalable data warehouse with data vault 2.0. I call it the Bible, just on a shorter way, because it's also like is is the base book that you will always come back. It's still super
Mm.
valid. It was out in I think 10 years ago. You know better than me, but
That's 10 years, yeah.
it is still a book that you will come back if you have right now if you have any doubt on data vault. So it's still valid. But the
Mm.
point is that from zero to this book that has maybe 600 plus pages, it might feel like a big gap, like a big step, right? And even it could be intimidating for new people.
Mm.
So the idea was, okay, let's create some piece of content to introduce people into Data Vault. But there is a big challenge, right? Because Data Vault is a 600 plus page book, right? So it's a lot of things that you can talk about Data Vault. So how you compress these all these concepts in something that is manageable in a couple of pages. At the beginning, we thought about a white paper, and
And it
already
got out of control.
yeah, it got a bit out of control, but like we already have one first experience that it wasn't successful. Like so, we tried to write a first version of this piece of content, and we weren't happy with that. So we say, okay, let's start from scratch. Let's take some learning from this experience, and see what we can do right now, like something that works out. So yeah, at the beginning was the idea of a white paper. A white paper should be between 10, 15, 20 pages top, right? But then when I started to work on it, of course, I started with the index, at least to have a backbone of the structure of the book. And I realized, okay, this is going to be longer because if we want to introduce, even though they are the basic stuff, it will like we will need to go through the different pillars of data vault. We will need to go to explain different stuff that for sure it will take us longer. So I like we have more meetings. Of course, we were iterating quite fast. Mostly with Christoph. Also, you were on the picture in different moments, and yeah, we realized okay, this is going to be a bit longer. We were still not sure it's going to be a book or something. Then it evolved into this
Hmm.
what we call the handbook, and it's around a 60-page piece of content
Hmm.
on an A5 size. So it's not that big. This is why we call it a handbook. I have it here actually.
Yeah, exactly.
and and yeah, like basically the idea was to just bring the minimum concepts to first to get your first idea of what is Datable, but most importantly, why we use it and what are the pains that we are solving with Datable,
Yeah.
right? Because maybe if you jump directly to hub syncs, links, and satellites, you understand the concept, but you understand why we are using it, right? And it's kind of a could be a virtuous cycle or it could be a vicious cycle if you present it wrong in the wrong way. So so yeah, like we came back, we came like we iterate with this index, and we realized that yeah, we just need an introduction. The introduction was a key part just to say what is the goal, what is the also the target reader that should be able to read this. So it's
Hmm.
someone who is a bit used to what is a data platform, data warehousing, but maybe they didn't need to know anything about data vaults. So that wasn't a problem. And also the introduction was important to define some common language, right? Because data vault is quite language specific. So like some basic definition of some concepts that we are going to use in the rest of
Yeah.
the book. So that was really important for us. Um, and then we just organized the book with the three pillars that we know. So we started with the architecture. I think that was the best way to give a overall bird eye view of the of what is Datable with the different layers. We also like again, we didn't want to replace the Datable Bible, right? It's already there, it's still valid. So we also took the opportunity to introduce new concepts so
Hmm.
that maybe they weren't there 10 years ago. So we came with some small mentions to data fabric, data mesh in the architecture section. That was also quite interesting.
Yeah.
And then we came full into the modeling part, right? Which is like what we know, the core entities have linked satellites, derived entities, and also the query assistant tables like pits and
Yeah.
bridges, right? And finally, we had this section of methodology, which again is quite is really complete and valid on the Data Vault book of 10 years ago. So in this case, because we didn't want to just repeat the same, we wanted
Mm.
to come with maybe what are the new tendencies or stuff that we can talk related to the methodology, Datable methodology in the last years. So in this case, we just make brief mentions to, for instance, discipline agile, which
Hmm.
yeah is also developed by Scott Ambler,
By
which
Scrambler.
we yeah, so it's also quite relevant for us right now. Also, like some mention to this project versus product mindset that we should have when we are working on a data platform or a data warehousing project, and also the different kind of roles that you can expect on a Datable project.
Hmm.
So basically that was the overall idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And is it used So we ship this out to clients. You can either get it online, and I should have the QR code here, but we ship it out to clients here via QR code, and you can just read it online. But we also have a free copy that we send out. It's no guarantee we ship it out, but yeah, we try to ship out as many as possible essentially. And are we using it internally as well at Scalefree to as a resource for our new guys when they join the company essentially?
So yes, for sure. So as we know, is people can request it the book, or they can also check it online for free. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, a big advantage, because yeah, anyone who is interested can check it out. I was
Yeah,
checking the statistics, and I know that we have at least 10K people that enter into the page. So I think
cool.
it was, yeah, people are really interested into that, and I think we have around 400 requests on the physical copies of the book.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that was quite successful. And on
yeah,
the other hand, yeah, like for sure, it's available for our newcomer students, or like the academy students that we have, that they are starting to get into Data Vault. They can get a copy of it. Is like is again an entry point. For sure they will go deeper really fast, because they
yeah,
usually they will need to do the certification at some point in time, and they will need the big book, right? Because it,
yeah,
again, it's not a replacement, it's just an entry point to understand why it could make sense for you. And then you will probably need also to jump into the building a scalable data
yeah.
warehouse with data
Yeah, yeah,
2.0
yeah.
book.
But that is when both my book comes into play, when you get patterns from there, but also where our internal resource come into play. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm a big fan of publishing a lot of content. So also like the our open source projects we do. They are I'm a big fan of publishing everything that we build internally, as long as there's no like corporate secrets in there or client secrets, and as long as there's some value for the public, right? So we just open source the
Mhm.
code that we develop as much as we can, and yeah, and also for knowledge articles. Um, I mean, we like to publish anyway, and I'm a big fan. As long as the quality is okay, is good enough for publications. If it's good enough for that, let's publish it, right? So don't publish anything low quality, but good quality content. Why not, right? Um,
Yep.
it's cool. Yeah. And let's talk about your role as the head of research. So the what's the research team about? What's that essentially? Let's get it.
Okay, yeah. So basically, the research area, the research team, was something that naturally arise from the different kind of activities we were doing at the Scalefree, right? So it was kind of a bottom-up thing that grew up in the companies. So as you were saying, we were already creating different kind of contents. So it's not only you, it's not only me. We have people, all
Mm-hmm.
different people, that they say, okay, I'm interested in this topic. Maybe while I'm researching, I will also write some article, and then we have an article of any new topic. Maybe we can have a workshop, or some some live stream of like the DBT talks that I also
Mm-hmm.
host, or Data Vault also related presentation. So there were a lot of activities going on, and the idea from management, also like Christoph present, on organizing chaos, basically, it was the idea of, okay, let's organize this under some
Mm-hmm.
umbrella, and this is going to be the research team. And
Yeah.
we define a different goals of this team. And so we want to, a couple of things we want to do here. We want to keep up to date with the latest industry trends,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that everything is changing all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and every, like, as the time pass by, is faster, right? It's moving even faster. So it's really hard for an individual person to keep track of, like, to make a division between the signal and the noise, right? What it makes sense, well, at least at the Scalefree level, like what it makes sense for us as consultants to pay attention to. There are literally thousands of tools around there now. Now with AI, they are popping up even more.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep track of that. So the idea is like, okay, we have a team that, me myself, I cannot cover all the area. Like other person, they cannot cover all the area. But maybe if we are together, we can cover more area together. So the sum is more than the individual parts, right?
Yeah, but there's
So
also lots of topics which are not that relevant for our clients, right? So this also, I mean,
exactly.
yeah, you want to focus in the research as well.
Exactly. So this is a two-way thing. We can
Yep.
come up with some ideas, but we have the consultants, mostly the seniors, but anyone can come to us to say, okay, there is this new tool, the client is checking it out, so maybe we can research it and come
Hmm.
up with some kind of report, and then we can use it to take some decisions, so some more
Hmm.
educated decision on it. So this is one part of the thing. Like, we have a keeping up with these latest industry trends. It could be technologies, it could be methodology, frameworks, and stuff, like all different kind of things that are happening in the data engineering, data analytics, all this realm. Then we also want to train our team. This is related to empower our team, right? You won't be a good consultant if you don't keep track of the latest trends. You
Hmm.
won't be the best consultant if you cannot generate some kind of document out of some research that you made, or if you cannot communicate what you know. Maybe you can be a really smart person, but I saw that on the university back then. You have like really smart person researchers, but they were really bad teachers. They
Yeah.
were really bad professors because they are not good at how you transmit your knowledge. So this is you can call it a soft skill, but it's totally learnable, right? Right? You can learn it. And this is also how we train our team. Like there is people with less experience, there is people with more experience, and we support each other on that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, then also another thing, another of the goals of the research area is to partner with key players in the industry. Just to give a specific example, right now we are writing a white paper with DBT. DBT
Hmm.
are a really big player in our industry, so we want to work with them, and we are writing some joint article related to DBT and data vaults.
Yep.
Um, and finally, of course, really important is to create new leads, right? This is what we were doing before. We want to create articles. We want to put ourselves outside in the world and show our expertise
Hmm.
also. So we have like people that realize what we are doing right now. Um, and they will come to us, right? Like that happens with the trainings, that happens with the presentation, with this handbook also. People realize, okay, these people know what they are doing. Like one of the key values, I know it is a key value at the Scalefree, but we also have it at the area, is quality, right?
Hmm.
We prefer quality instead of quantity.
Yep.
Even though we have quantity, we have a lot of things going on, but for sure, we review everything that we write, and we see that everything, like with maybe more senior consultants, we review that everything is valid, makes sense, and is reliable.
Hmm. Yeah. So for Scalefree, I rather stay small and high quality than in my niche. Essentially, that's what it is. Than having it blown up and drastically increasing it and losing quality. Essentially, that's the important piece. So that's important for me essentially. So I rather stay small. Um, the Okay, cool. So how does the research team then helps the employees at Scalefree? You said that you help each other learning some new
Yeah.
skills, but any other empowerment that come to your mind? How we help our employees?
So as you mentioned on the internal enterprise data warehouse
Hmm.
team, that is a benchmark of the best practice that you should have. Then when
Yep.
you go out to a project, that
Yep.
when you face reality, is not going to be that benchmark. But this comparison will help you to be a better consultant, right? To bring
Yep.
the best practices. And I totally agree that our internal EDW is part of the like one of the key values of that is to bring that benchmark.
Hmm.
So we also replicate a similar sprint agile way of working in
Hmm.
the research area. So we work with the sprints, we work with the typical retros and planning meetings.
Yep.
So we are still consultants at creating here content, research content. We also are quite independent. So I just expect people to be able to do their work, and if they are stuck,
Yep.
to come to me or to any colleague, but to be proactive. And this is also a trait of a good consultant, I would say. And
Yep.
we support each other. This again, I would say this is not a research area thing, it's a Scalefree thing. We are like quite easy to reach and
Yep.
quite generous with our knowledge. I think this
Yep.
is amazing about our company. So everyone will be happy to explain what they know. Um,
Yep.
I'm still learning from people. They don't need to be senior than me. I'm still learning from students because
Yeah,
maybe they are like working on, for instance, implementing a chatbot, right, using
yeah,
RAG, and I'm learning from them. So
yeah,
I think this goes in every direction and is part of our culture. So this is
yeah.
also really important. Yeah.
When I started a company, I was teaching all the concepts to the next generation, essentially to Chung and Mark and so on. And I told everybody, because they were grateful for getting all this knowledge from me, essentially. So I told them, it is not for free. You have to learn it, and you have to give it to the next generation. So when we hire the next people, essentially after you have to
Yeah.
teach them. So it's just a transfer over to via you to the next guys, essentially. So that's what I've personally, that was part of the environment setup, essentially, where I made sure this is a very open environment where people like to share knowledge, where there's no, I mean, there's no, we don't have turfs where this is your stuff and this is mine or something, right? So
Mhm.
it's a common goal, essentially. I would say, at least that's what I hope, essentially. Um, the how we work together, essentially, and it's really about learning and teaching all the time, and it goes really from employee to the next employee, essentially. That's
Totally.
the way
Yeah.
we should go.
And
Yeah.
also, like another things that we do at the research area on the way of working is that for sure we follow standards. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that maybe changed when we wrote the research area that maybe before it wasn't there is that everything needs to have an output. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some responsibility of, you can do research on anything. You can come to me with a new idea. It's like, for sure I won't know about all the tools that they are on the market. So you can research on something new, but I will expect from you to generate an output. And maybe if it's the output is that it's a bad tool, maybe
Yeah.
it's good enough for our internal knowledge base. Maybe we will
Yeah.
make a publication on that. But this is also how we help other consultants internally, right?
Yeah.
So this is all related of the way of working of the research area. We can also extend it to the way of working at Scalefree at some degree, but also it's what we do, right? So the content that we create, it could be, for sure, if it's going to be published, it could be consumed by all our consultants, but also we have our internal knowledge base, as I was saying. So we can make a review of new tool, and
Yeah.
then this would be our available our in our internal Confluence page.
Yeah.
So this also ways to empower our consultants in the way that maybe you are full time in a project and you are working with a set of tools. So you don't have the opportunity to research this new trendy tool that is around,
Yeah.
but you will have time to read some reports or something that we specifically crafted for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the company, for our consultants, so we know it's going to be relevant for you. It's not just one of the thousands of posts that you might find online.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
also we create content not only externally but also for our internal
Yeah.
consultants, right?
Yeah. Research should really produce, should add value, right, to the organization. And
Hmm.
if it's high enough of value, we can also publish it. So that's how the thinking is. If it's good enough for, it should be good enough for the internal knowledge base. And there's also some assets in there which we haven't published yet. I wouldn't rule out they can be published, so that's not the case. But if it's real good content, then we also like to publish it on a webinar for public audience, essentially. But yeah, so that's the thinking, essentially. How good is it? Is it good enough for publication? Essentially, that's the cool thinking. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think could
and
be improved? Oh, so go ahead. Go ahead.
No, one last
Yeah.
thing related to the content that we create, I think is something that we talked about before, is this idea of this pyramid that
Yeah.
we
Mm-hmm.
crafted as an high level idea of how we will create and mature our content, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really helpful to visualize how we're going to work. So on the base of this pyramid, we imagine that we will have the knowledge articles. So it's a
Yeah.
big name for all these different a kind of like short
Mm-hmm.
and more maybe high level articles. It could be a blog post, it could be internal documentation about a tool and stuff like that. Then on top of that, we can, if it's good enough, as you say, maybe we can make a webinar or a
Yeah.
video presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we go further on this pyramid up, maybe you can do a presentation with a vendor or like some internal training. So something that we need
Mm-hmm.
to prepare and craft and then make the training for our consultants in a more longer format. And finally, we can have like something that is maybe even bigger as an event presentations in a conference or even as big as a book, right? That
Mm-hmm.
we are talking about, like
Yeah.
some different topics. Of course, this as the up you go in this pyramid is more effort and time that you need, and more you need to be
Yeah.
more confident that the effort makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That the topic is valuable enough for our
Yeah.
company, for our consultants, for our clients,
Yeah.
that it is worth the effort and time, because of course writing a book is not an easy
Yeah.
task.
If you see that there's some feedback from the audience that you address to the value to, essentially, if there's some positive feedback, we can add more value essentially over time, step by
Exactly.
step. That's the idea. Yeah. So yeah, cool. What do you think could be improved? Because I don't believe that everything's perfect. So how can we essentially improve at Scalefree?
So from a research area perspective, I guess there's always is part of the game, right? But
Mm-hmm.
is something that probably we need to put more focus on there on that is that, and it's connected to what I just say. If we want to go up on the pyramid to
Yeah.
more mature content, which for me are really valuable, like we told that this handbook is 60 page, and we had 10K visualization. So for sure, it was valuable for people outside. But this kind of content could take more time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if we want to democratize the possibility of people to go deeper into that, we also need to find like good balances between the time that they put into a project with their client, and the time
Yeah.
that they can put into research activities, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that for sure we need to keep thinking, like how we are like the, let's say, the system of incentives for like the not only like thinking about like benefiting our clients in the very present, but also how we can benefit them and our company
Yeah.
in the longer term, right? And this takes like investment in different directions, right?
We see the struggle here between the creative chaos where we try out stuff that maybe not get paid immediately, and we see
Exactly.
the other pushback from the financial side that we are still in the end a consulting firm and we do consulting. That's our primary job essentially.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, it goes back and forth, and sometimes one side is a bit more powerful, but then it gets too powerful on that side, and then the other side pushes back, and it goes too powerful, and it's a back and forth all the time. But it's by design. So that's a
Yeah.
cool setup essentially. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for insights here. Very useful. I think this makes a good recruitment video actually. For discussing how it works at Scalefree. There was one thing from my side. What I think is we have to look at the moment is really the fight for resource, because we have different teams. We have a product team where we do the open source project essentially. We have the enterprise, the internal data platform essentially, and then the research team. And
Yeah.
with these teams are fighting for resource. When new guys get hired, we have to make sure that every team gets their share of the new people essentially, and that's what we have to optimize. That's from a high level perspective. That's what we have to
Yeah.
optimize essentially, and that's what we're working on at the moment. Yeah, we just started, and now we see where we have some issues and have to improve on that side essentially. But yeah, the but it's cool. So yeah, thanks for the insights, Hernan. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for the
thanks
invitation.
thanks for joining me today. Cool. Thank you, man. See you then. Yeah, next week most probably. It's
Yeah.
Friday.
See you. Thank you very
See you, man.
much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Um, all right. So yeah, that's cool. I think it's really a good recruitment video here that we put on the HR side essentially, because that's how Scalefree works actually. It's a gives us good insight essentially for the next generation who are not there yet essentially. Um, Yeah, let me just double check if you see any questions. I don't have any questions here. If you have any questions on Data Vault or anything else, right, you can shoot them here on LinkedIn, on the in the video stream, or on YouTube. Let me just double check both sides. I don't see anything. So yeah, so again, I'm currently writing on or working on this article. We're finishing it up. The last I'm waiting for the review from the publisher, and then from the platform, and then we're going to finish the article essentially on it's a Flow BI article, and where we discuss what Flow BI is and how it integrates and so on. And so that's essentially hopefully on the weekend I'll finish this up. I also have a important customer meeting next week, so I have to prepare that one as well. I haven't done it yet, so I have to do it on the weekend. And then it's my that's not the everyday's employee work to work on the weekends. It's just me, and yeah, so that's the idea. And and on the weekend, I'm currently doing some gardening because we have this pool project from last week, and that added a lot of earth, and I have to distribute the earth now a bit and flatten out the the garden a bit and add some seed and so on. So that's my gardening project. It's raining a lot, so adding some reseeding some of the garden is a good time right now. As bad as it sounds, but it's northern Germany. Yeah, that's what it is. Cool. I think we're done. Then yeah, thanks for joining today. And I hope. Well, one more comment. We will make a short pause, like couple weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, to reevaluate how the live streams went, and also because I'm on vacation. So I will be on vacation in the first week of August, and I will not do a live stream next week or the week after, and the week after when I'm on the vacation period, and yeah, and then we look at how we can improve this live stream and might come back with a slightly modified version. Yeah, if you have any feedback, just let us know. Right, post your comments here if you like the format or not. I know it's for niche anyway. Not everybody's interested. This will not become public TV on a national channel or something. That's for sure. And but it's still, I think it's good for a certain people, and that's what we made this for essentially. That's the idea. Okay, cool. So then, yeah, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the next. Maybe you go on vacation. Enjoy the vacation that you have, and we'll certainly see us back here on the live stream. Thank you guys.